Good morning. I was able to figure out my webcam as well. And B'ezrat Hashem, I also got the desktop application of the Mishne Tora, which is going to, I think, make it easier to study. I can show through Google Hangouts, I can show on my screen. It's called Screencast. I can screencast whatever I'm seeing, which is going to be the Mishne Tora that we are studying. So we go to the Hakdama. In this edition of Makbili, we are going to go to Halacha Tet. But before that, something we forgot yesterday. There is a very notable omission from the lineage of the tradition of who taught whom, which Bedin taught to which Bedin, and the one that's skipped over is Shlomo HaMelech. Shlomo HaMelech, although we say he was the wisest of all men, he's nowhere to be found. We go from David HaMelech to Ahiyah HaShiloni. As we know that Ahiyah HaShiloni is an anachronism in a way, because he's from Yosef Mitzrayim, and he only is active in the Tanakh later on, the times of Yarovam. So, in a way, this is to tell us, to alert us with neon lights, that Shlomo HaMelech is missing, and to have us ask the question, why? And the reason Shlomo HaMelech might be missing is because Shlomo HaMelech, although he was the wisest person who ever lived, he was not a role model in his conduct, in his behavior to Am Yisrael. And we believe that you do have to have a role model to be a worthy vessel to transmit the Torah. Chachamim say, "Ksivtei Kohen yishmeru da'at v'Torah yivakшу mipihu ki malach Adonai Tzevaot hu." The pasuk in Malachi says that we are going to demand the Torah from the Kohanim, who are like angels. So Chachamim say, what this is telling you is that if the person is as an angel, if a person is worthy in his actions, then Torah yivakšu mipihu. Then you should ask Torah from them. If he's not like an angel, if he's far from it like some other people, then you may not study Torah from such a person. Which is why Shlomo HaMelech again is skipped here. At the end of his life, as we know, he disobeyed what the Torah says of not having too many horses, not having too much money, not having too many wives. He had all three of those. And the Tanakh tells us that his wives led him to actually commit idolatry. Whether he actually committed idolatry or whatever his wives did was imputed upon him is another question. But the point is, Shlomo was not a role model in behavior. And this is why he's being skipped. So now back to Halacha Tet. We are in the era of Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, the end of the second Bet HaMikdash. And again, the Torah was at risk. The Torah was at risk. The Bet HaMikdash was destroyed. The Bet HaMikdash was not only the place where we had our ritual life, where we had our prayers and our korbanot, our offerings, and the place to which we had our pilgrimage, but also it was a place of study. It was a place that hosted the Supreme Court. It was the Jewish Congress in Eretz Israel. And with its destruction, the place in which one generation passed on Torah Shebe'al Peh to the next, passed on the entrusted Torah Shebe'al Peh to the next, and gave the authority of Torah Shebe'al Peh to the next, was no longer in existence. So now Rabban Yochanan is faced with this dilemma, with this crisis. חמישה תלמידים היו לו לרבן יוחנן בן זכאי. רבן יוחנן בן זכאי had 5 students. והם גדולי החכמים שקיבלו ממנו. These 5 students are not the only ones, but they are the greatest of all the sages that were entrusted by him with Torah Shebe'al Peh. ואלו הם, and these are they. Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol, Rabbi Eliezer the Great, also known as Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkenos, the Rabbi Yehoshua, this is Rabbi Yehoshua ben Hananiah, the Rabbi Yoseh HaKohen, the Rabbi Shimon ben Netanel, the Rabbi Elazar ben Arach. From all of these, the two that are more or less relevant for us, the two from whom we have a lot left, is Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yehoshua. The other three, we barely have anything. Just to show you how dire the times were, that it wasn't a given that Torah would be preserved. As I said, 5 greatest students, and we only pretty much have traditions from 2 of them, for the most part. ורבי עקיבא בן יוסף קיבל מרבי אליעזר הגדול. ויוסף אביו גר צדק היה. רבי עקיבא, he received Torah from Rabbi Eliezer. He was also a student of Rabbi Yehoshua, but he continues the line through Rabbi Eliezer. And his father, Yosef, was a ger tzedek, was a convert, another convert. By the way, at that time, because the Torah had been translated to Greek by Ptolemy, it was accessible, it was available to the Roman Empire at large, and Romans fell in love with the Torah. And we know from many sources that it had become extremely popular, and the elite of the Romans, the smartest people, were converting to Yahadut, to Judaism. Rabbi Ishmael and Rabbi Meir ben Ger HaTzedek קיבלו מרבי עקיבא. Rabbi Ishmael and Rabbi Meir, also the son of a convert, 2 sages that received Torah from Rabbi Akiva. I'm saying received Torah here, I'm not saying that they were entrusted, because this is not the lineage that we are about to continue in a bit, with which we started, of one court giving to the other. This is the individual lineage of actual tradition. וגם קיבל רבי מאיר וחבריו רבי ישמעאל. And Rabbi Meir not only received from Rabbi Akiva, his teacher, his great teacher, but also from his teacher's student, his sort of like peer, but rabbi as well, Rabbi Ishmael. חבריו של רבי מאיר הם רבי יהודה ורבי יוסף ורבי שמעון ורבי נחמיה ורבי אלעזר בן שמוע ורבי יוחנן הסנדלר ושמעון בן עזאי ורבי חנניה בן תרדיון. Rabbi Meir had many peers in that generation. These are all the sages that we know from the Mishnah. They author all the sayings, all the halachot compiled in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Nehemiah, Rabbi Elazar ben Shamua, Rabbi Yochanan Sandlar, Shimon ben Azai. He was never old enough to receive the title Rabbi, so it's just Shimon ben Azai. Rabbi Hanania ben Teradion. וכן קיבלו חבריו של רבי עקיבא מרבי אליעזר הגדול. And also, other peers of Rabbi Akiva received Torah from Rabbi Akiva's teacher, Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol, who was, again, the greatest of the 5 students of Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. וחבריו של רבי עקיבא הם, the peers of Rabbi Akiva are, רבי טרפון, רבו של רבי יוסי הגלילי, רבי טרפון, who was the rabbi of Rabbi Yosef HaGalili, who is famous among some circles for having been the one who advocated the position that chicken is not meat for purposes of eating it with milk. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. All of those very famous sages from the Mishnah. Yud Aleph. Rabban Shimon HaZaken, Rabban Shimon, I'm sorry. Rabban Gamliel HaZaken, קיבל מרבן שמעון אביו. Rabban Gamliel the elder. Now we are back to the lineage, to the links in this chain of tradition, of this chain of authority, actually. Rabban Gamliel received this authority from Rabban Shimon, his father, who was the son of Hillel HaZaken. Beno shel Hillel HaZaken. Rabban Shimon beno kibel mimenu. And after Rabban Gamliel, the first one, who lived through the destruction, he was the first chief of the academy, the first chief justice of Am Israel after the destruction of Beit HaMikdash, came his son, and then his other son, and then his grandson, Rabban Gamliel beno kibel mimenu. This is the one we know as Rabban Gamliel from Yavne. Rabban Shimon beno kibel mimenu. Rabbi Yehuda beno shel Rabban Shimon ze hu hanikra Rabbeinu HaKadosh. And then finally, 5 generations later, Rabbi Yehuda, the son of Rabban Shimon, he's the one that we know as Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, or the one we call Rabbeinu HaKadosh, our distinguished, I don't like the word holy for Kadosh, but maybe the holy rabbi or the distinguished rabbi. והוא קיבל מאביו ומרבי אלעזר בן שמוע ומרבי שמעון חבריו. And this Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, Rabbeinu HaKadosh, he not only received the authority, but also he got the tradition from his father, from Rabbi Elazar ben Shamua, and from Rabbi Shimon, the one who was in his same generation. Why is he important? Why are we singling him out? Actually, he's one of the most important figures in Jewish history, and Yud Bet is going to be a very important halacha. Rabbeinu HaKadosh Hiber HaMishnah. Rabbeinu HaKadosh compiled the Mishnah. Umimot Moshe Rabbeinu ve'ad Rabbeinu HaKadosh. And from the time of Moshe Rabbeinu until the time of Rabbeinu HaKadosh, לא חיברו חיבור שמלמדים אותו ברבים בתורה שבעל פה. There had never been any other composition registering Torah שבעל פה that was available to the public. In other words, obviously they studied Torah שבעל פה in public, they studied the oral law in public, but there was no official text that you could quote or cite or say to your friend from across the world, hey, let's look at chapter 5, halacha 7. There was nothing like that. Nothing that was meant to be a national publication. Ella, rather, what was the situation before then? Bechol dor vador, every generation, Rosh Bet Din o Navi shehiyeh beoto hador, whoever was the chief justice or the prophet in that generation, כותב לעצמו זיכרון בשמועות ששמע מרבותיו. Obviously, you cannot know everything by heart. Nobody can know everything by heart. And it's irresponsible to not have something written. It's not that they never wrote Torah shebe'al peh. Let's say that in the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, as we know, Moshe Rabbeinu and his court, they composed, or at least they put the theme to the first blessing of Birkat Hamazon. Furthermore, they instituted that we should read the Torah every single week, every single Shabbat. How do we know that? How do we know that that's the case, that that's what Moshe Rabbeinu said? It's not only that one generation told the other orally that that's the case, but actually there was someone responsible, the chief of that justice of that generation, who would write to himself maybe something that looked like an actual book with actual chapters and verses or whatnot. But the difference was this writing, this book, these notes were meant to be private, were meant to be preserved inside the Bet Din, the court. And one can imagine that when, let's say, David HaMelech had his archives of notes written, when he entrusted Ahya Shiloni to continue leading the court, he gave him his compilation of notes. I think that that's probably what happened. So, he would write to himself private notes on all of the things that he learned from his teachers. But when he taught in public, he would teach orally. He wouldn't read these notes. Again, if he had read these notes, someone could come and say to somebody else on the other side of the world, on chapter 5, Mishnah 7, the court says A, B, C, D. But you couldn't do that. And that was the point, that you wouldn't do that. That you would go to the Beit Din and ask them in each case what their opinion is. וכן כל אחד ואחד כותב לעצמו כפי כוחו מביאור התורה מהלכותיה כמו ששמע. Also every private person would write to himself his private notes of the ביאור התורה. Be'ur comes from the word be'er. Be'er is a well, something that you dig into. So Be'ur HaTorah is the depth of the Torah in the sense of the sources of the Torah. We're going to see it a little later. I'm just giving you a preview. Be'ur is the fundamentals that lead to a certain rule. So you have the rule, let's say that you may not eat chicken with meat. There is a Be'ur to it. There is a whole concatenation, whole process that led from the pasuk saying "Lo tevashel gedi b'chalev imo" to our not eating chicken with milk. So all of that you would have heard it in shiur, you would have written it down as private notes. Also from the actual halachot, there were formulations of stated law. So let's say that at some point the court decided, okay, so chicken and milk, guys, is forbidden. That becomes an axiom, it becomes a maxim that you can now quote, but that quotation would not be from a book, it would be from an oral experience. Those are the halachot, these maxims, kemo sheshama, as you may have heard. So this is part of what you have notes of. And also from all the things that could have come up anew, novelties, additions, as if it were, to this Torah shebe'al peh, to this mental law through which we process the text, that were learned anew bechol dor vador, in every generation. Bedinim, in dinim, through dinim. Dinim are hermeneutics. It's the tools that permit you to infer things from the text, from the Torah, in a creative way. So let me give you an example. Okay, lo tevashel gedi b'chalev imo, this same pasuk. The pasuk says, you may not cook gedi. Gedi means a kid of a farm animal, cow or sheep or goat, in the milk of its mother. There's two ways of going about this. One way is going to be the Kal Vachomer way. So Kal Vachomer is one of the dinim, is one of the ways by which you can infer things from the Torah. It doesn't mean that that's what the Torah says, but it means that if you're in a court session and you are, let's say, Rabbi Akiva, you can take the floor and say, my colleagues, I want to propose that this pasuk, being that I can infer the following, should be interpreted by this court to mean ABC. So, to it, in this case, let's say Rabbi Ishmael stands up, that's not who he was, but let's say he stands up and he says, Rabbotai, my colleagues, my rabbis, it says in the pasuk, Lo tevashel gedi b'chalev imo. You may not cook a gedi with the milk, in the milk of its mother. Now, Kal Vachomer is, if the pasuk says X, and Y is more obvious than X, then obviously Y. So this is how it goes. The pasuk says you may not cook in order to eat it. Of course, how much more so that you may not actually eat it? That is Kal Vachomer. And through that, the court can take a position that this is what the pasuk means. And those positions can change. And this is what the pasuk means for all intents and purposes for all of Am Yisrael, because the court is the one that's going to give meaning to the Torah. That's what Torah shebe'al peh is. Those are nithaddeshu bechol dor vador bedinim shelo lemadu mipi hashemua. So those are the things that can become novel, they can become new interpretations in every generation through these hermeneutics, through these interpretations shelo lemadu mipi hashemua, that were not necessarily solid, they were not traditions of an actual maxim. It's not that somebody came to the generation of Rabbi Akiva and said, guys, this is how you read this pasuk. There is a Kal Vachomer here. No, not necessarily. There is no Shemua on this. There is no tradition on this. Rather, with one of, they used to have 13, in the times of Rabbi Akiva, they used to have 13 ways of discourse. 13, like I mentioned, Kal Vachomer, there were 12 other tools that you could use to present your idea in the Bet Din. And not only is something that was learned through one of these ideas, but also והסכימו עליהם בדין הגדול. וכן היה הדבר תמיד עד רבנו הקדוש. Not only did they take this, not only did someone present this as coming from the pasuk, but actually it was voted on. That's a very important point. I can, in the privacy of my house, have as many derashot, as many interpretations as I want. They are totally relevant, unless they are said in the context of a court setting, like a Sanhedrin, and unless it's voted on and the majority, representing the majority of Am Yisrael, agrees that this is the case. It's as if, imagine if the United States Congress, if the House of the Representatives was in charge not of legislating, or also of legislating, but they were the ones who were in charge of interpreting the Constitution. And if they wanted to tell you, the citizen, what the Constitution means for the entire American people, they'd have to use certain tools. Let's say, for example, they have to use originalism, which is a theory of law in the United States, saying that you are trying to find out if the framers were alive today, what would they say? That's pretty much what originalism means. And then they present their idea, and then you have a vote, and if the majority agrees on it, that becomes a new interpretation of the Constitution. That's pretty much more or less what the Bet Din Hagadol was. That is the authority we have been mentioning, that one generation is passing to the next one. So what did Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi do after the situation was the way we just described it? והוא קיבץ כל השמועות וכל הדינים וכל הביאורים והפירושים ששמעו ממשה רבנו ושלימדו בדין של לכל דור ודור בכל התורה כולה. So he took pretty much all the sets of private notes that included everything that had been decided and taught and transmitted, because this is cumulative, obviously, from the times of Moshe Rabbeinu, on the entire Torah, on everything from the laws of Korbanot to the laws of how to plant in Eretz Israel, everything in between. From there he compiled the book of the Mishnah. Now it's Sefer, it's a public publication, it's something that can be quoted. He made people start memorizing it. So someone in the Galil and someone in the south, in Yehuda, would pretty much be able to cite to the same Mishnah, to the same sentence, by citing to a chapter and to a halakha. V'nigla lechol Israel, and this was published, nigla, very important word, this was published, it was promulgated, it was made official with respect to all of Israel. Uchtavuhu kulam, everyone wrote it. Yes, everyone wrote it. I'm saying this because there is a machloket on whether or not people had written the Mishnah or just passed it down orally. According to Harabam, it's very clear they wrote it. V'ribbeso bechol makom, and he actually taught it. Ribbeso is to teach in a very active way everywhere. כדי שלא תשתכח תורה שבעל פה מישראל. In order to prevent Torah שבעל פה, the oral law, from disappearing from Israel. Because again, we had no Bet HaMikdash. We no longer had an active court that was engaged from the Bet HaMikdash in interpreting, and that was a center to which anyone could go to ask them what the Torah meant. י"ד. ולמה עשה רבנו הקדוש כך? Why did he do this, רבנו הקדוש? ולא הניח הדבר כמות שהיה, and he didn't leave things as they were. לפי שראה שהתלמידים מתמעטים והולכים, because he saw that two things were happening. The students were becoming fewer and fewer. But what wasn't becoming fewer and fewer is the tzarot, the troubles were becoming more and more numerous and more numerous, which meant it's going to become very, very difficult to maintain this just as it was. And the evil kingdom, this is a term of art Chachamim used to refer to the Roman Empire, which was not very kind to Am Yisrael. The evil empire was expanding in the world and was strengthening. At the same time, the Jews were starting to become scattered. We had a community, an enclave as far as Spain at that time. So he compiled one version of Torah Shebe'al Peh, so everyone would have it. So everyone would learn it fairly quickly. The Mishnah is not very long, not like the Gemara. It's memorizable. The Mishnah you may know by heart. So something that everyone can learn quickly and will not be forgotten. Then he dedicated all of his life, he and his court, and he taught the Mishnah in public. And now we have a very important halacha, not for these purposes, but whenever we come across these rabbis in the Gemara, it's important to remember each and every one of them was part of the court of this group that compiled the Mishnah. It wasn't Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, was not a one-man show. Again, nobody was a one-man show. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi had his court, and during his tenure is that they published a Mishnah, but it was a team effort, and this is the team. These are the greatest, there were more, but these are the greatest of the Chachamim, of the sages, that were in the court of Rabbeinu HaKadosh and received Torah from him. Shimon veGamliel banav. His two children of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, Shimon and Gamliel. V'Rabbi Afes. V'Rabbi Hananiah ben Hama. V'Rabbi Hiya. Some of them are considered still from the generation of Tannaim, of the people that preceded the Mishnah. And some of them, or most of them, are considered Amoraim, are considered already from the period of the Gemara. Rabbi Hiya, the Rav is perhaps the most important figure in the Talmud Bavli, in the Gemara. The Rabbi Yanai, Ubar Kapara, Ushmuel. Notice Shmuel does not have, many of them don't have the title Rabbi next to them. Shmuel lived in Nehardea since he was pretty young. But Rabbi Yohanan, but Rabbi Hoshaya, Eluhem HaGedolim, these are the greater ones, the great Chachamim Shekibelu Mimenu, V'Imahen Alafim Urvavot Mishel Chachamim. But with them, again, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi had a campaign of going around Israel and making sure the Mishnah is known by everyone. So obviously he had more students. He had thousands and tens of thousands of other students, but these are the ones that really can call themselves his students. אף על פי שאלו, אף על פי שאלו ה-11 קיבלו מרבנו הקדוש ועמדו במדרשו. By the way, we'll go for 3 more halachot. Although these 11 were the ones that received from Rabbeinu HaKadosh and were part of his midrash, of his academy, Rabbi Yohanan Katan Haya, Rabbi Yohanan, we're going to mention him separately, he was a minor during that time. And later on, probably when Rabbi Yehuda Nasi passes away, he becomes a student to one of the other students, one of the other 10, which we mentioned, Rabbi Yanai. Kapara Ushmuel, Rabbi Yohanan, Ushmuel Kibel Rabbi Hananiah ben Hama. And Shemuel, not only did he received from Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, he was also, apparently he was also young around that time. So Shemuel continued his studying with one of the other 10. His name was Rabbi Hananiah ben Hama. We mentioned him as well. So what did they do? They didn't stop there. These 11 students, again, this was a very special generation, very inspired, so that they took it further. and it's all relevant to our time. Halacha Yuzayin. Rav, one of the students we mentioned, חיבר ספרה וספרי. He's the one who compiled two books, the Sifra and the Sifre. These are three books really. The Sifre is two books, that's why it's called Sifre. Sifre is plural, it means two in Aramaic. Sifra and Sifre. Some people call it Sifri, which makes absolutely no sense. It's Sifre, it's two books. Sifra is a compilation of Midrashim on the book of Vayikra. So on Pesukim, it's organized by Parashiot. So if you open Sifra, you open, let's say, Parashat Aharemot, you'll see at the beginning of Aharemot, you have a lot of legal discussions around the Pesukim that deal with what used to be done in Bet HaMikdash, or what should be done in Bet HaMikdash in Yom Kippurim. It's not Rav's opinions, but he compiled opinions of sages based on the Parashiot. Sifre is from the next two books, the Bemidbar and the Devarim. And what are these for? Levaer, that's the word we mentioned before. Levaer, in order to go deep, to show you the roots, of Ulhodia Ikerea Mishnah, and to announce to everyone Ikere, the root of the Mishnah. So the Mishnah says that Kol HaBasar includes when we talk about meat, it includes all meat, including chicken. So what does that mean? How did we get there? So if you open the Sifre, you will see a discussion in the book of Devarim. Next to it's in several places, but among other places in Parashat Re'eh, you will see that there is a discussion. Rabbi Akiva says, Ne'emar, Lo tevashel gedi shalosh pe'amim. It was said 3 times, and then one is for this, one is for that. We have, again, using these tools of presentation, we have records in the Sifra and the Sifre of at least the summaries of the positions of these arguments, of these presentations they used to have in these courts to show you how we got to the point we got to. So the Sifra and the Sifre are going to show you the roots so that you can open the Mishnah. That was Rav's plan. And then you can open the Sifra and the Sifre, and you can see from the Sifra and the Sifre how the Pasuk leads, how the Torah Shebichtav connects to the maxim, to the halacha in Torah Shebe'al Peh. Rabbi Hiya חיבר התוספתא לבאר ענייני המשנה. And Rabbi Hiya compiled another compilation which we know, the Tosefta. The Tosefta is about 3 times as long as the Mishnah. And it's pretty much an expanded and unabridged version of the Mishnah with a lot of material that was edited out or was summarized in the Mishnah itself. In order to explain his idea, Rabbi Hiya was, I want you to have the Mishnah. Everyone is going to know the Mishnah. The Mishnah is the official book. That's it. The Mishnah is the only official book. But if you want to have a little more background, maybe go one step before the Mishnah, one edition before, and know how we got here, then go to the Tosefta, and you're going to open, and for each chapter, you're going to have 3 times as much material. וכן רבי הושעיה ובר כפרה, also רבי הושעיה ובר כפרה, חיברו ברייתות לבאר דברי המשנה. They also compiled what's called baraitot. Baraitot is a word in Aramaic from bar. Bar means outside in Aramaic. Baraitot literally means the ones that were left out. So the baraitot are some Mishnayot, some alternative versions of the Mishnayot that did not make it into the official Mishnah, but are very helpful. Because if you want to understand the Mishnah, what did Rabbi Akiva really mean? So sometimes you look at the Baraita, the Gemara does this a lot, and through the Baraita you can perhaps have a different angle of what really was going on. But Rabbi Yochanan, another one of the students, חיבר התלמוד הירושלמי בארץ ישראל אחר חורבן הבית בקרוב מ300 שנה. Rabbi Yochanan lived in Tiberia, and he compiled what we know as the Palestinian Talmud, Talmud Yerushalmi, in Eretz Israel. And Rambam gives you also a little bit of a date so we can place ourselves in history. This is around 300 years after the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash. So we are talking about the year, let's say 350, 370, after the Common Era. י"ח, ומגדולי החכמים שקיבלו מרב ושמואל, so Rav Shmuel were also very prominent sages on their own right, and they had students, and we are going to now mention names that are very known in the Gemara. Rav Huna, Rav Yehuda, Rav Nachman, Rav Kahana. ומגדולי החכמים שקיבלו מרבי יוחנן, this is in ארץ ישראל, רבא בר חנה, ורבי עמה, ורבי עשה, ורב דימה, ורבון. י"ט, ומכלל החכמים שקיבלו מרב הונה ומרב יהודה, רבא ורב יוסף. These two were very important. They took turns heading the most important academy, probably during the most important time of the Gemara. And I think most of the Gemara can be attributed to Rabba and Rav Yosef and their students. ומכלל החכמים שקיבלו מרבא ורב יוסף, אביה ורבא. From the rabbis who received from Rabba and Rav Yosef, we'll mention mostly Abaye and Rabba, again very, very famous. ושניהם קיבלו גם מרב נחמן. They also had another teacher who was Rav Nachman, whom we mentioned as well. He was one of the students of Rav Shmuel. ומכלל החכמים שקיבלו מרבא, Rav Asher ורבנה. And then from Rabba, from the Chachamim, there were two that we are going to point out, Rav Asher and Ravena. Why are they important? We're going to say in a second. Umor bar Rav Asher kibbel me'aviv Rav Asher me'Ravena. And then there was another rabbi, his name was Mor bar Rav Asher. He's the one to whom, for example, is attributed the statement or the maxim, the rule, or the recommendation that one may not eat fish with meat. Fish with meat. It's not forbidden, but Mor bar Rav Asher was the one who mentioned that this should not be done out of health concerns. He's the one, so he received from Rav Asher and from Ravina. I'm pointing him out a little separately because he's not in what we are about to read in this last halakha we are doing today. He's not one of the 40 generations that we are going to just review. He's the 41st generation, but he's mentioned in this group because whatever he says in the Gemara has the same authority as anything said by people before him. Halakha Kaf. This summarizes everything we have been saying so far. נמסר מרב אשר על משה רבנו 40 איש ואלוהן. From Rav Asher until Moshe Rabbeinu there is 40 people, and these are they. Rav Asher, he received Merava, Merabba, Merav Huna, Merabbi Yohanan v'Rav Shmuel, 3 in the same generation. Merabbenu HaKadosh, Merabban Shimon Aviv, Merabban Gamliel Aviv, Merabban Shimon Aviv, Merabban Gamliel HaZaken Aviv, Merabban Shimon Aviv, מהלל אביב ושמאי, משמעיה ואבטליון, מיהודה ושמעון. Again, we are now in the generations of pairs, זוגות. מיהודה ושמעון, מהושע וניתאי, מיוסף ויוסף, מאנטיגנס, משמעון הצדיק, מעזרא. Now we come to the prophets. מברוך, מירמיה, מספניה, מחבקוק, מנחום, מיואל, ממיכה, מישעיה, מעמוס, מהושע, מזכריה, מהוידע, מאלישע, מאליהו, מאחיה, מדוד, kings now, משמואל, prophets, מעלי, מפנחס, מהושע, יהושע בן נון, ממשה רבנו. So we have 40 uninterrupted generations of courts, of authority to interpret the Torah שבכתב and to engage in Torah שבעל פה. ממשה רבנו, רבן של כל הנביאים, whom we also call not only Moshe Rabbeinu, not only our rabbi, our master, but also the master of all the prophets. And then who did Moshe Rabbeinu, whom did he receive from? Me'im Hashem Elohei Israel. I'm going to stop here, but Hashem tomorrow we continue halakha kaf.